Welcome to Tackle Fanatics TV, and in this episode of TFTV you get a chance to see the Team Tribal tactics balancing your tackle with Iain Macmillan.
And finally, there's little old me. I like to keep things neat, tidy and clean, and I'd like to catch a few along the way. That's the team. Let's take a look at the playing surface. Home Fen Fisheries over in Cambridge. Absolutely amazing venue, and the hysteria amongst the team to actually come on here was something like I've never experienced before. It was almost like going to a really big fish venue in France. But we're here. I've plotted up in the Sunken Tree. It's a swim that I do know quite a lot about. I've done quite a lot of digging because I know quite a few people that have been on here. The spod mix has gone out and I put 20 spoms, not overkill. I just want to get a bite, and I think it's worth mentioning that I always tend to bait up, certainly on day ticket lakes, around 2 to 4 in the afternoon. Everybody deems the morning time up to around lunchtime a good bite time. I think that's the same on most lakes. So the last thing you want to be doing, and purely from an etiquette point of view, is actually ruining your chances of getting a bite. So try and leave the swim alone from first light until lunchtime-ish. If you have a bite short, recast. But on the basis that you're going to remember how much bait you've put in, just try to think, has there been loads of fish activity? Have you had lots of liners? If so, there's probably a good chance that the fish have cleared you out. So if you think you can get away with it, just put another 3 or 4 spoms out. Just enough to get a bite if anything's passing through. So that was the plan of attack, and it worked. And obviously the first bite was a 42 pounder, so things couldn't really have got off to a better start. Afternoon is the key. Get them out, leave everything still for the evening. As you can see, we've moved. Now you may think I'm absolutely off my trolley because I had a 42 pounder out of the swim next door, but first light this morning there was a load of fish crashing up against the snags. So I've got everything out, flop the rig out, and it's gone within about 15 minutes. And it was an absolute brute, and it was 39 pound 12 ounces. So the move has definitely paid off, and I really do think I'm going to get more bites here. So what it proves is a rig in the right place, no matter what the depth, will get you a bite. And after 15 minutes I completely expected it, to be honest, but to be that big is amazing. It's a proper unit of a carp as well. I'm just going to talk about the kit that I'm using in this situation, and I think it's very important that I go through this. Now, snag fishing isn't my bag. I openly admit that. It's very hairy, everything is lock solid, but there's certain things that you have to do to make sure, one, you get the fish out, and two, that the fish is actually safe. So, as you can see, everything is rock solid. So we'll start at the back. Those butts are firmly into those backrests. It cannot move, it cannot pull it out of there. But the rod itself, it's a TX9, it's a 12 foot 3 1/4, but it's a very soft tip, so it's a very forgiving rod. So in the position where you're lifting into the fish and you've got to walk back, you want to just really tease them away from the snags, this rod is perfect for that. Very well balanced X-Aero bait runner. It's an absolute dream to play fish on. So we'll move slightly up the rod. The line, it's 15 pound tribal carp, so there's not loads of stretch in it, but there's enough absorption along with the soft rod that really aids in getting those fish away from them snags, which is the main point that you want to get to. Moving slightly forward, we come to the K-guide. You can see it's behind the alarm, so in the event of it even pulling that out the butt rest, which it won't, the butt eye is going to jam against the alarm to stop it moving forward. So everything's locked solid, bait runners are off, nothing is going to move here, but you've got to be on that rod quickly. Pick it up, nice soft rod, and walk back. Perfect situation for snag fishing. While we're on the subject of kit, I want to run you through a setup that I've been using extensively over the last probably 12 months at least. Now this is a Velocity 12 foot 2 3/4 rod, and I've twinned this with a DL 6000 bait runner, and it really has taken me all the way back to when I started carp fishing. Now this whole setup is very competitively priced, but I really want to focus on the usability of this rod. Now this range of rods come in everything from 10 foot £3, all the way up to 13 foot, £3.5. So there's something in the range of velocity to suit every single angling situation out there. So I've gone through the test gears. I'm just going to quickly look at some of the bullet points that make this rod unquestionably, in its bracket, the best rod out there on the market. Now you've got a full Japanese shrink, you've got a very aesthetically pleasing reel seat, line clip, 3K weave on the bottom 12 inches of the section. Moving up the rod, 50mm guide and a 16mm anti-frap tip ring. Now, pound for pound, this is unquestionably the best rod in its price bracket on the market, in my opinion. I touched briefly on the reel that I've got on this Velocity. Now this is a DL6000 bait runner. They also come in a 10, they all come with spare spools, and there isn't one carp angler in the world that doesn't know about the brand bait runner. It's a beautifully engineered piece of kit. You've got the bait runner facility on the back, you've got a beautifully balanced twin handle, and just like the Velocity, it's brilliant on price. Right, we need a net. He's not a bad fish. The stamp of fish in this lake is incredible. He's twisting and turning. You don't mind him kicking off under the rod tip. You just got to get him away from them snags initially. He's another good fish. It's kind of ironic to say that at home fan because they all seem to be absolute whackers. He's ready, and there he goes. Let's get him out. Okay, here we go. That's the fruits of that little snaggy tussle. I've just weighed him up at 30 pounds 4 ounces. Now, it's still an amazing fish, but ironically, this is the standard size here at home fen. Just off that snaggy spot just in front, lots and lots of bait out there I put last night. But something very, very special happened at first light this morning. The lake was flat calm. It was very, very carpy as the trendy saying goes, and it's sitting in the sling down there at the front. So we'll slip him back and get that very special fish out. Sometimes even I can be reduced to a quivering wreck. And this is one of those moments. My heart is absolutely pounding out of its chest because of what's in here. So we'll attempt to hold what is the biggest fish I've ever landed in the UK. And I can't believe I'm about to say this, but there is 56.5 pounds of home fen mirror. I'm just absolutely blown away. Never do I ever expect to catch the biggest fish in the lake, and certainly not when the pressure's on for a DVD. And it was a very dogged fight, but again, I just didn't realise it was going to be this fish. Caught over a load of red ammo and tiger nut bait with a bit of hemp. Little 10mm white source pop-up on a supple, stiff hinge rig, and he didn't like picking that up, I'm sure. But weirdly, he didn't sort of fly off. It was a very, what we would all deem as a big fish bite, but because I was locked up, I was straight on it, and it's nice to be woken from your slumber with an English 56.5 pounder. But what a carp, what a lake. Just absolutely blown away, to be honest. I'm sure the emotion will set in when we've slipped him back. So let's get him in there. Well, I mentioned the rig when I was holding up that beast of a carp earlier, so it would only be right to run through the rig that I've been catching those few fish on this session. Now, it's a rig that's very, very in vogue at the moment. It's the stiff hinge rig. We'll start at the top of the rig with a standard leg clip system, one that will eject, so one that locks the swivel which in this situation you want the lead off. You know, you're fishing up against snags, you don't want anything that's going to hinder that. So a lead clip that can release the lead is absolutely vital. Next we've got the lead itself. That's a 4-ounce flat pair. Now obviously you wouldn't put anything round or anything remotely round, in my opinion, on there, on that sort of large sloping shelf. You may get a grip at one stage, but because you're fishing a tight line, any slight movement could move that lead off, roll straight down into 30 odd foot, which it is in this bay. A little ring swivel just to help it pivot, to reduce the tangles. I think that is an important thing as well. And next we get down to the bones of the rig. Now this is almost a reverse stiff hinge because this is a supple boom section. It's a coated braid. I don't want nothing too stiff, so I don't want the old amnesia or that type of material on that section because I want it to lend itself to any debris on the bottom it might fall on. A couple of bits of putty. Again, they are absolutely immaculately applied. Now a little tip, when you're rubbing your putty on or pouring it onto there, your fingers go a bit sticky, so if you just lick them slightly. I know that may sound really, really anal, but it's just perfection. Why not do everything you can when you're tying rigs to the best of your ability? Moving down again, you've got a ring swivel to aid the rig to spin when the fish picks it up or approaches it from any angle. Some people use a loop. I just prefer to tie it. One, it's easier, and two, I just like the way it sits. So we move on to the actual chod section of the rig. That's 25 pounds stiff material. I like to use as stiff a material as I can get back through the eye with a knotless knot. You'll notice there that's a crimp. I've crimped my chods or stiff hinges for about 6-7 years now, and as long as you crimp correctly, they will never let you down. So as long as that crimp is completely level in the jaws, give it a good squeeze, and then always test your rigs after. Just any slight pressure, the crimp will move. So as long as you put a bit of pressure on, if you crimped it correctly, it'll never let you down. So moving down to the hook, that's a size 5 chod type hook. Now a size 5 with a 10mm bait will just balance perfectly. The weight of the rig will pull it down, so you don't need to apply any putty, as you've noticed there's none on there. If you're going to use a bigger hook or a bigger pop-up, you will have to apply putty or play around whichever manufacturer's gear you use. You may find that some hooks are heavier than others, so you can get away with it, but in my instance, a 10mm dynamite pop-up will just sink that rig perfectly. A little bait screw there. Again, a lot of people are really, really old-fashioned and say, well, you know, they're sort of a novice way of doing it. I like to tie mine on. Well, that's fine if you want to tie them on. Do you know why I use them? Because they're quicker. So if you're using a cork ball, just drill a little hole first as a pilot hole to help it in, and you're away. And then all I'll do on that is just squeeze a little nugget of foam. And what I do, I put it in from reversed, so I'm keeping that bait at the bottom of the loop. So once the foam has come off, it's cocked and ready to go. It's an absolutely amazing rig, and a lot of people catch a lot of big fish on it, as I've done in this session. So ignore it at your peril.
You've been tuned in to TFTV. Tackle Fanatics are a premium Shimano stockist and offer a massive range of products at the best prices in the UK. We also stock a vast selection of bait and tackle from all the leading manufacturers. To view our range, log on to www.tacklefanatics.co.uk. Remember, Tackle Fanatics offer finance to make your tackle purchase more affordable. Tight lines and wet nets, remember at TFTV.